Ramsey Rosso! You have failed this city!
After multiple episodes of disappointment, The Flash returns with easily its best episode of the season, that being Season 9, Episode 9, titled It's My Party and I'll Die If I Want To. And just wow, it's just absolutely amazing to just feel this show again. Like, it feels so nice having this crossover with all of our favorite characters, but just also from everything from tone to music to writing, everything was just so well handled. I absolutely love this episode. It's just great to just be excited about the show once again, and season 9 episode 9 without a doubt definitely delivered on that part. Obviously we do have a fan favorite returning in this episode. Well, should I say two fan favorites, Oliver Queen and Kid Flash, both of which return in a really cool way. We have lots of emotion packed in this episode, so many homages to previous seasons of not just The Flash but Arrow as well. And also we do have the new multiverse reveal. So this is a big episode, although it's completely filler. This is a big episode and I absolutely loved it. Now, before I get into the review and breakdown itself in more detail, I will obviously give a quick spoiler warning because trust me guys, this is a big episode and you wouldn't really want me to spoil something like this for you guys. So for those who haven't seen the episode, you have been warned. So the episode kicks off, I'm going to be honest, in not really that of an interesting way with, you know, the side characters. Now, the side characters in this episode, they didn't really have much, so I'm glad. Like, the side characters, they were actually sidelined, they didn't really do much, so that was something I was really happy about. However, the scenes that did have Chester and Allegra in it, I really didn't like, and no matter the circumstance, I just will not like. That's just my personal opinion. But yeah, they're pretty much planning Barry's birthday party. Obviously, it was mentioned that Barry did de-age. He did de-age in season 8, episode 16, and that was all because of like the big like mad scientist we had in that interlude episode. But yeah, we then head over to Barry's surprise party, and right off the bat, we do have a lot of returning characters. We do have Kid Flash, or shall I say Wally West, John Diggle, David Singh, all of which have returned to celebrate Barry's birthday. Obviously, this is Barry's 30th birthday, and yeah, Barry's just surprised with all of it. We do have Team Flash having some fun, like we do have that like brief karaoke scene. Now, Diggle gifts Barry something very emotional for him, and with what they did with Barry's character in this episode, I absolutely love. Like, you do just see him just living survivor's guilt. Like, he has survivor's guilt all the way throughout this episode, and it really worked. They did an amazing job in addressing some certain characters such as Caitlyn, who I would argue has been done absolutely dirty this season, but I'm really glad that Caitlyn was acknowledged over here. And Diggle obviously talked about Caitlyn, and Barry did say something along the lines of having Keon around did help, but something just still feels off. And then later on we did have another scene with Caitlyn, and those sorts of stuff I really appreciated because they actually acknowledged Caitlyn, and we did get to see Barry's survivor's guilt, so that was something I absolutely loved. But yeah, Diggle gifts Barry something quite emotional, and that is Oliver's bow. Diggle does say that this was something Oliver would have wanted him to have, and obviously Barry reacts to this with emotion. Like, he's like, I cannot take this, I cannot accept this, and yeah, he just doesn't really accept it. Now, I was quite confused because Diggle mentioned that they got this bow in Earth 38, but I was like, didn't they just hang it in the Hall of Justice? So that was a bit confusing, but yeah, it is what it is. We do have a Chester and Allegra scene, which I'm just going to skim over because I don't really care about, but he gives her this like device which allows her to pretty much conceal her identity. Next up, we do have a conversation between Barry and Wally, where Wally does pretty much talk about more of his like ever-growing abilities, and he does talk about how he's been exploring alternate timelines and how he could try to like find a version of himself where he could achieve, I believe they called it enlightenment or something like that, but he's essentially trying to like further use his powers to pretty much project himself into another quote unquote timeline, which later on we find out is going to be another Earth. But yeah, they obviously used this idea from Red Death because they did say that Red Death was from an alternate timeline, which didn't really make sense. And obviously in this episode, it was also revealed that Red Death was from another Earth as well. But yeah, this is pretty much the initial premise of Wally's new abilities, where he's able to project himself into another alternate timeline, or shall we say, an alternate Earth. Now, Barry does do a quick speech in which all of it is ruined through the drinks that were provided, and we do see that it had like Bloodworks contagious blood in which everyone obviously passes out. And then we get the really cool entry of Ramsey Rosso, in which Ramsey Rosso in this episode was absolutely incredible. He was one of my favorite villains on the show overall, but in this one he absolutely stole the show once again. Obviously he does talk about how he waited the long game to pretty much do everything. He does talk to Barry again. He's like, is this how you treat a guest? Where was my invitation to the birthday? All of that I found really funny. Then we did have Barry saying something along the lines of, well, you're not going to get to me this time, in which Bloodworks like, well, I've already have. And this is something I did really like about this, because like we see Barry having like multiple visions with Bloodwork using his like hallucination powers. And what I really liked about this is that you weren't really able to tell what was actually happening and what's a vision. So I found that pretty cool. But yeah, Bloodwork continues to not only just manipulate Barry, but then he does do it to someone else, which we will talk about in just a second. But obviously we do find out that Chester didn't drink either, so he does raise up like the other Blood Brothers and Blood Sisters, or infected Team Flash members, to go after Chester. However, we find out that Iris was not affected because Nora's speed healing pretty much helped her, which I don't know if that made too much sense, but it is what it is, I guess. But yeah, Ramsey reveals that this time he does have another target in mind, in which he then ends up manipulating Wally instead. So Wally's in this hallucination where he's in his like mother's house, as I guess it's where he grew up, and you know he's hearing his mother in his head and all of that. And while that's happening, we had Bloodwork further just manipulating Wally, talking about like the last encounter of Team Flash and how there was like a crisis to end the multiverse and how there's a new multiverse and everything like that. And just seeing Ramsey just absolutely just manipulate Wally and Wally falling into the trap, I found that really cool. Obviously we did get a mention of Jesse Quick, but yeah, we do have Bloodwork pretty much showing Wally his like full potential, in which we get to like see like I'm guessing like the new multiverse in general, and I thought that was really cool in my opinion. Next up, once again, I don't really care about it that much, but we do have like a Chester and a Blood Allegra scene. Doesn't really interest me that much, so I'm not really going to talk about it, but it's just the infected Team Flash members going after Chester. Now, another scene that I thought was really cool was the breaking the fourth wall scene, where Ramsey pretty much takes Barry behind the scenes, and I thought that was really cool. And then we like had them further like delving into Barry's survivor's guilt, if you want to talk about it in that way. And Barry's just like, no, I'm not doing this, I cannot do this, and he just walks off. But I just found this really cool and really funny as well. This is such a new addition into the show, and it worked as well, so that's why I didn't really have any complaints about it. Obviously we did have the mention of Caitlyn in this very scene as well, and once again I did really like all of those additions. But yeah, Barry's back in the lounge, in which he realizes that Wally has been affected, and Barry's trying to like, you know, talk down Wally, but Wally's just so filled with rage and anger, he just doesn't give in. Like, he's so angry at Barry, he just goes all out at him, in which an unexpected thing happens, and that is when Wally goes for the reverse flash and pretty much kills Barry. And I'm like, okay, what the hell is going on over here? But then we have Barry waking up in Lianyu, or shall we say purgatory, in which we have the goat himself, Oliver Queen, standing in front of Barry saying, Barry, what have you done this time? And man, it was just absolutely amazing to have Oliver Queen in this episode. Just seeing Stephen Amell back was just really cool, and it just made the episode for me. Oliver Queen just stole the show. But yeah, we have Barry and Oliver obviously talking about what just happened. Barry was first in denial that this was Oliver. He's just saying this is still one of Ramsey's mind games, in which Oliver was just like, dying is the easy part. And then that was obviously what Oliver said to Barry in Crisis. So Barry obviously believes it, and he just goes for the hug, and I absolutely loved it. Obviously Oliver's not much of a hugger, so he's like, Barry, let go. And Barry talks about what happened, in which Oliver does reveal to Barry that he is actually dead. But yeah, we do get the mention of the new multiverse where Oliver does tell Barry about the new multiverse and how it is that he didn't just create Earth Prime, but he created other Earths as well. And we get the reveal that Red Death was also from another Earth, like she wasn't from an alternate timeline. So that new multiverse reveal I thought was pretty cool as well. Now, while that is happening, we did have other scenes in between, like Keon pretty much saving Chester, and she does this by like using her abilities, so we get to see more of like Keon's abilities. But also we do have Kid Flash and Ramsey just working together, and then we have Wally pretty much opening up the portal to the multiverse, in which this is when Ramsey spreads all of his infectious bloodwork stuff across the multiverse. So this is a multiversal scale, and as Oliver Queen does say in the episode, this is why he had to interfere, because the whole multiverse was at stake. But yeah, Barry says like, okay, how are we going to get back? In which Oliver does talk about the fact that Barry doesn't actually want to get back. They do have this really, really good discussion about like, Barry's survivor's guilt, where he just didn't find it fair. Like, it was his birthday, but also he lost a lot of his loved ones, and he doesn't find it fair how he is the one that's alive. And we do have Oliver Queen saying something like, life has a lot of things, fair isn't one of them. So we have all of those really cool scenes, and it's something I did really like. But yeah, Oliver does obviously sense a disturbance in the multiverse. It's like, right, we do need to stop this, in which I found this really funny, where Barry's like, okay, don't do the thing like you did in Crisis, or else the whole Speed Force got affected. And then Oliver's like, no, I'm not gonna do that. He just punches Barry. I found that absolutely incredible. And as Barry wakes up in the lounge, we have Oliver Queen suited up as the Green Arrow, and holy crap, this was such an insane moment where he just picks Barry up. He's like, I just missed this even more. Like, Barry's like, you clearly miss me a lot, don't you? And Oliver walks up to the bow, he grabs the bow, he's like, I missed this even more. And man, it was just absolutely incredible. I really, really love this so much. But yeah, we do then have Kid Flash and Bloodwork versus the Flash and Green Arrow. Once again, we do have the Flash and Green Arrow teaming up together. It was just so beautiful to watch. But Oliver does mention that he needs to get like a point into that portal which Kid Flash opened up to obviously stop this whole threat from getting bigger and bigger. And yeah, we have Kid Flash and the Flash facing off against each other. It was an absolutely incredible chase scene. The CGI was on point, and it was just really, really cool. And obviously, eventually, by the end of that fight scene, Barry does get through to Wally. He does use, like, I don't want to say the power of love, but like, he does get through to Wally by talking him down, and Wally eventually breaks out of the bloodwork infection. But while that is happening, we have Oliver Queen going like, okay, you're starting to piss me off. And we already knew what was coming when those soldiers came. We knew we were going to get one hell of a Green Arrow fight scene, and oh my god, it did not disappoint at all. It was so cool having a fight scene with the Green Arrow once again, and I'm just out of words. I absolutely love this so much. Now, Keon then wakes up other Team Flash members. I did really like the addition of Diggle throwing up once again. I thought that was really, really hilarious. But obviously Diggle then goes in for the rescue as well, in which obviously Ramsey is like, okay, now that you've defeated everyone else, it's gonna be Bloodwork versus Green Arrow. And then we have like Diggle using a rocket launcher and then blast Bloodwork away, and then we have such an emotional reunion between Oliver and Diggle, and that hug they shared was absolutely phenomenal as well. But obviously this is when Bloodwork transforms into Bloodwork, and yeah, the CGI looked really, really cool. I was actually really impressed with how Bloodwork looked. But obviously this is a pretty much like a big RIP for Diggle and Green Arrow. But this was until the Flash and Kid Flash showed up. They started circling around. They used the Speed Force construct, which was like a lasso to tie Bloodwork up. I thought that was really, really cool. And then I was so gassed in this scene. If you guys saw my watch party, you guys saw how I reacted to this. But yeah, they pretty much set it all up for Oliver. Oliver draws the bow. He's like, you have failed this city. So he actually got it. It was just beautiful. But Oliver shoots this like weird special arrow, which obviously hits the portal and pretty much stops everything. So he saves the whole multiverse, but also saves Bloodwork as well. So like gets rid of Bloodwork's abilities and gets rid of his HLH, I believe his diagnosis was. So Ramsey's just like a normal human being now, and he's just going to get locked up. And then I really liked when Barry's like, okay, leave the saving for us. I thought that was really, really cool and special as well. But yeah, we did have a Team Flash scene at the West Allen house, and we had Oliver there once again. You know, Oliver's talking about, you know, what he did and what's happening, and we had Team Flash thanking Oliver for everything as well. Nothing really stood out for me in the scene that much, other than the fact that we got a cool Iris and Wally scene, which I'm glad we did. And she's like, oh, you're going to be such a great uncle. I did really like that. But also in terms of Oliver and Diggle, we did have like mentions of Mia and William, and is he going to go see Felicity again? All of that I found really, really cool as well. We did also get like a Green Lantern mention as well, where Diggle obviously rejects the ring, and Oliver mentions how that ring was to pretty much like test Diggle and that he did the right thing. But the last hug they shared was absolutely phenomenal. But one of the best scenes in this episode for me was the bar scene. Obviously this wouldn't have been an episode between Oliver Queen and Barry if we didn't get a final bar scene to end off the episode, and we did. And you know, Barry talks about like the whole multiverse and everything, and he asks Oliver if he is actually achieving what he's supposed to be. And I really love the callback to the pilot where Oliver does talk about Barry looking over his city like a guardian angel, making a difference. He doesn't say saving people in the Flash, which I wish he said, but he's like, that lightning bolt, it chose you. I absolutely loved that callback so much. And obviously this is when Oliver turns into the Spectre once again and heads back to Purgatory because, you know, duty calls. He cannot stay on Earth for too long. But man, what an episode this was. But yeah, overall, as I said, this was by far the best episode of the season so far. I would have given it a 10 out of 10 if it weren't for the Chester and Allegra scenes. So because of that, I'm going to give this episode a 9 out of 10 because the side character stuff really didn't interest me all that much. But once again, still an absolutely incredible episode. And the next episode as well looks absolutely insane, and I'm really looking forward to that as well. But yeah guys, thanks for watching. If you guys have enjoyed the video, please give a like and subscribe. Be sure to let me know in the comment section down below what you guys enjoyed most about this episode. I'm interested to see all of your thoughts towards all of this as well. And yeah, I will see you guys in my next video.